All right, so I think we're just about ready to get started. My name is Chris Schaefer. I work with the MORIC Model Schools team. And today's webinar, we're going to be focusing on Google Docs. I will give some overview on how the product works and kind of some of the tools within it. And I will talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can leverage Google Docs as kind of a digital learning or online learning tool, specifically if your students are learning remotely. So hopefully that's helpful. So let's get started. Basically, Google Docs is the Google equivalent of Microsoft Word. So if you've ever worked in Microsoft Word and created documents, worked in documents there, you should be fairly familiar with a lot of the tools that you'll see within Google Docs. So you can see here I have a blank document in front of me. And on that document, you can see that there is a fairly similar to Microsoft Word toolbar along the top where you can format the text to meet your needs. Google does have built-in fonts that are somewhat limited, but you can add fonts, and I'll show you that if you would like to kind of dress up your documents a little bit. You can adjust any sizes, bold, italicize, underline, all of those tools are there. Same for bulleted and numbered lists, so if you need to create those within a document, those options are right at the top. I take a lot of notes in Google Docs, so I do a lot of bulleted lists, and I do a lot of indenting and outdenting. So that is something that I use quite a bit. If you don't see some of the tools on your window, it may be because your window is too narrow. So if I shrink this down, you'll see some of my toolbar actually kind of disappears, and now I just see this little 3-dot menu, and if I hover over it, it says more. This is a question I get from teachers quite a bit, is I don't see all of my tools in Docs, and if you click on that more tool, you'll notice that another toolbar kind of pops up beneath that, and that's where you'll be able to access those tools. Or you can just simply take your window and make it larger if possible, if your screen allows for that. But if not, you do have that 3-dot more menu to adjust that. So here you can see I have a document. It's a basic Google Doc document. Now you'll notice that as I'm typing, up at the top here above my toolbar, there's a little link that says all changes saved in Drive. One of my favorite features of working within the Google tools is that they're all online, based in the cloud, and they actually save your changes as you work. So a big problem with students historically is that when they're creating documents, they either save them to the wrong place or they don't save them at all. And then you get back to class the next day and all of that work is lost and they're starting over. One of the nice things with Google Docs is, like I said, it's saving as you work along. So I just typed into this document and it's already saved in my Google Drive. One thing to note with Google Docs is every new doc you create is going to just simply be called Untitled Document. So to change that, up at the top here, you can just click where it says Untitled Document and you can give this a name. So I'm just going to call this my Google Docs Training. And as soon as I click out of that box, now I've renamed my document so that when I go into my Google Drive to find it the next time, I'll know exactly what it's called and I'll easily be able to find it. One of the best features available within the Google suite of tools, and specifically in Google Docs, is that they're a highly collaborative set of tools. So because we're working in the cloud and online, I no longer have to create my documents alone. I can share my documents with other people and have them edit along with me. So in the top right corner, there's a button for share, and it opens up this small window where I can then type in a name or email address of someone I want to join me. So in this case, I'm going to invite my team member, Brittany. I can add a note to this if I want, so I could say, please help me with this document. And now what it does is it goes and sends an email to Brittany. It says, you've been invited to join Chris in editing this document, and she can then open up the document, and you'll see now as I'm working along, my cursor is the regular black cursor, and up at the top you'll see a new icon has joined here, and that's Brittany. So if I hover over that, it says Brittany has joined, and the color that's on her circle is the color that matches the cursor on the screen. So now Brittany and I can both be in the document at the same time. We can make changes together. And what it does in the background is it actually goes ahead and keeps track of what every individual user is typing in. So this is really handy for teachers who have taken, let's say, a group assignment and assigned it to students maybe through Google Classroom or just given it to them through Drive. And so now let's say you have 3-4 students working on an assignment. When you go to grade that assignment, one of the great things about Google Docs is it saves every change that every user makes in what's called the version history. So there's 2 ways to get to it. I can click on the All Changes Saved in Drive link at the top, and it opens this up. Now you'll see this goes in kind of reverse chronological order. So the older version of the document, it was just a blank document. Or the newer version where it shows that on the right, I'm the green dot, so my text is in green. And Brittany is the purple dot, so her text is in purple. All of the changes are broken down by users, so you know exactly who was participating, who was doing the most work, who maybe had the most insightful work to add to this document. And it lets you kind of adjust how you're working with the students as they complete this assignment, or maybe adjust their grade if you're to that point. While I'm here, one thing with the version history is you can actually restore prior versions of this document. So say your students are in that group assignment and the due date comes. They've been working on this for the entire week, let's say. Friday comes and they're supposed to have the assignment in, and maybe Brittany comes to me and says, you know, I was working along, we had so much work done as a group, and then the document was just simply erased. One thing you can do is jump right into the document and look at the version history and A, make sure that they actually did the work, and B, if they did, you can go back to a prior version and you'll see if I click on one of these, I get a blue button at the top to restore this version. So if it does get deleted, you can go back in and you can restore the work that was there. Pretty nice feature to have. Another slightly advanced feature of the version history is over on the right. You'll see I have a little arrow here where I can expand this version. So you'll see here I typed into the document first, and then kind of Brittany joined me and we both typed in to the document after that. So this just breaks out the revision history a little bit more. So this would be great if you had, say, one class period in a 20-minute span, your students added 2 pages worth of typing into the document. You can see kind of minute by minute the breakdown of how much each student was adding within that version. So that little arrow lets you see those different versions. To get back to your document, you can just click in the top left corner of this arrow to go back, and it takes you right back to the live version. So one nice thing with Docs is you can not only add text, but you can actually create hyperlinks. So I could go up here and I could make that text I've highlighted a link. So I want to point this to our MORIC webpage. And now when I click OK, this is now a live hyperlink. So when I click on it, it gives me a little preview of the website. And I can click right at the top to go out to that site. And so that's how the hyperlink works. This is nice for students doing research. They can link out to their sources, or they can link out to kind of external sources of further information that they can't necessarily compress down into a simple document. So that's a nice feature for them to have. And as a teacher, being able to create the hyperlinks is really handy because you can give a document to your students that links out to, let's say, a YouTube video that gives them some directions, or it could link out to a website you want them to use to do some research. So being able to keep them right within the document and link out to those resources is pretty handy. Another nice feature with Google Docs is right in the top toolbar, there's this little insert image option. So traditionally, if you're working with Microsoft Word and you wanted to put an image in, which it was able to do, you'd have to go and get the image first, put it on your computer, and then you could put it into Microsoft Word. Google Docs takes one step out of the process there. So if I click Insert Image, I can still do that. I can upload from my computer any image I have saved to the computer. I could also go out to Google Drive. If I've saved images into my Google Drive, I can access them right within my Google Doc here. Or if I've put photos into my Google Photos app or account, I can access those as well. One nice feature that I don't see used a lot but is pretty handy is the camera feature. So if you have a camera on your computer, you can actually take a picture right off the computer live right now. So I could take a picture of something in my room, upload that into my doc, and it would be right there. But one of the most powerful features of Docs is I could actually search the internet right from my Google Doc for a picture to put in to my document. So I'm going to click that, and now I can do a Google search. One thing before I even do this, any of the searches you do to add an image to a document, these are copyright friendly images. So they're marked for reuse, and a lot of them are actually marked for editing as well. So they add that little filter into your search. But let's say I want to look for a dog. Now, this goes out and does a Google image search for dogs. I can click this little plus to see a preview of the picture, which is kind of full screen. Or I can click right on a picture of a dog, and you'll see at the bottom now it says one selected. I can select just the one, or I could even choose, I'll choose 3 of them here. So choose 3 dogs, and now I can insert all of them at once right into my Google Doc, and they go right into the document. Wherever my cursor was is where the picture goes. So now that they're in my document, I can click on each one of them, and I can resize them just by dragging on the corners. So now I can make them a little smaller and a little easier to get into my document in a little easier to view version. Put them all side by side. When you click on each picture, you can also adjust how the text wraps around the picture. So by default, they just go right in line with the text, meaning wherever your cursor was, it goes, and then you can start typing right after it. You can also wrap the text around it, or break the text for that picture. So you have 3 options for those. A couple other really nice tools about Google Docs that I really like as a teaching tool. Up in the toolbars here, you'll notice there is a formatting toolbar. So if you have specific requirements for how you want your students to format their document, like some teachers really like to have double spacing, or they really like to see a certain size font or anything like that, that can all be accessed here under the Format tab. So I can go to my line spacing. The default for Google Docs is 1.15. That's just what they have on everything. You can change it to single, 1.5 double, or you can do a custom spacing if that's easier for you. Again, you have your bulleted and numbered lists here. If you do require headers and footers in your documents, those are accessible as well. Sometimes students are required to number their pages. That's found under the Format menu. So if I do page numbering, I can decide if I want that to be in the header or the footer, and if I want it to show on the first page or not. I know a lot of times when you number pages, you don't show it on that first page, so that can be toggled off if you don't want that. The next option up in the toolbars, the Tools drop-down menu, is one of the most powerful parts of Google Docs. So here, there is built within Google Docs, just like Microsoft Word, a spelling and grammar check right as you type. So now, as I'm typing live, this will, let's misspell a word. So it goes ahead and it does an underline. Oh, that's my Grammarly extension, sorry. But Docs does check your spelling and it does check your grammar now as well, which is kind of a newer feature. You can toggle these on and off if you need to. So if you feel like students are taking more of a test or a quiz and you want that to be turned off, you could have them turn those features off as they're typing in the document. There's also tools for word count. Sometimes we require specific word counts. That's right under your Tools menu. There's a dictionary built in. One of the really nice features that they added a couple of years ago is voice typing. So under Tools, I can select voice typing, and it pops up this small window now. And if I click on this microphone, now I can just speak, and it uses the microphone of my computer to translate my words into text on the page. Period. So that's a really powerful feature for any students that need that accommodation, or sometimes, even personally, I find it to be a little faster to just dictate something than to actually try and type it all out. That's a tool that you can turn on and off as you see fit. It does allow multiple languages, so if you have students that are ELL learners, you can change the language that it's using to dictate that text. Also under Tools, again, if you have students that have any type of special needs for accessibility standards, you can go under the accessibility settings. So you can enable a screen reader support, and you can enable a screen magnifier. So that just works with whatever's on your computer to kind of enable those features, and that way they can work with these documents a little easier if they have those specific needs. And students can enable those on the document themselves as well if they have editing rights. So you don't have to turn it on for everyone necessarily, but that is a feature built into the system. Couple other features that are pretty handy as far as creating assignments for students. As you work through creating content on a page, you may need to insert something like a table. So if I go to my Insert menu, I can insert a table. They have a quick builder here where I can just select how many rows wide and tall I want this table to be. I'll do a 3x3 table. It pops it right into the screen. And now these cells, all I have to do is click in them and I can type. I can insert images. So anything you can do normally on the page, you can add to those cells within the table that appeared within my Google Doc. Under the Insert menu, you can also do drawings from the Google Draw platform. So you do have the capability, let's say you're a math teacher and you find it easier to use like a stylus to hand draw something in Google Draw than it is to use like an equation editor. You could actually do that right through the Insert Drawing menu, and you could insert that hand-drawn equation there. That said, they do have an equation tool that you can use to create math equations, and they also have special characters. So if you're a foreign language teacher or if you're a science teacher, a lot of times those characters aren't necessarily built into the English keyboard. You can pull those in right through the special characters menu. I'm gonna go down here. Actually, I'll move that down. Under the Insert menu, you also have this horizontal line option. I find I use this quite a bit to separate parts of the page. So if you're moving on from, let's say, some multiple choice questions to a more like short answer or essay at the bottom, you can insert that horizontal line to break up the page. You can also add bookmarks within your document. So what this does is, for my table, for example, I can put my cursor there and I can go to Insert Bookmark. And now I have a bookmark there. And so if I open up now my table of contents, oop, that was at the bottom of the page, I apologize. Up at the top, insert my table of contents. I could link quickly down to certain bookmarks, or the table of contents is also nice because I can just change from normal text to, let's say, heading 1. And now those will appear at the top in my table of contents for my students. So they could quickly click to get to these different parts of the document just by me selecting different heading types or paragraph types. A couple of the last features that I really like to point out for you guys in terms of working with students remotely. Let's say you actually have them completing an assignment in Google Docs, and now as a teacher you're going to look at this as a review or a grade, or for a grade. Sometimes teachers will just open up the document with full editing access, review it, and then touch base with the student, and that's totally fine. However, one thing that I really like that Google Docs does very easily is under View, I can change the mode from editing to, let's say, suggesting. And what this does is it takes away temporarily my rights to actually edit the text on the page. And now what I can do is read what the students have put on the page, and I can put my cursor wherever I want. And now when I type, it's inserted as kind of a comment on the side. If I could type correctly. So now what that's done is it's added what's called a suggestion for my student. So when they go back into their document, as a student, they'll see this text in their document. It'll appear as being green, and it will show them that I, Chris Schaefer, as the teacher, suggested that maybe they should put this part in. So you could say, maybe this is just rewriting a sentence that's there. Maybe it's please add more information. But the nice part about this is if you've typed in a sentence for them, they can either accept it, and it will actually change it now to live text on the page, or they could actually reject that and then type in their own information as well. So they have that flexibility. This is great for when you have students working in groups again, because then they're not actually editing each other's work, but they're actually just making suggestions to each other. And I find that to be a good way to kind of avoid some of the conflict that can come from students editing each other's work at times. So that's something that you can have students do, or again, as a teacher, you can do that as well. Another way to kind of achieve the same thing where you're making a suggestion, but you're not actually editing what's on the page. I'm just going to switch myself back to editing mode. I can highlight any part of the document, and you'll see on the right side of the document, I get this little bubble. So I can add a comment to my student here. So I could say, please expand on your thoughts. So now when they come back into the document, they'll see that there is a highlight on the page, and they'll see that I have placed a comment. Now, as a student, they can click on my comment and reply to it. So they could actually say, the reason I didn't add more was because whatever. Or they could go ahead and resolve this. So that kind of, what it does is it rolls it up into this comments history. That can be reopened if need be. So as a teacher, I can reopen that. And now I could type further. If you don't add more, I'll have to mark you off for that. Another nice feature of the commenting, specifically this would be more for when you're working with colleagues, is you can actually within the comment box type the plus sign and type in someone's email address. So I can use Brittany's email, for example. And what this does is it actually marks it as what's called a mention for this person. So when I type this message now, so this is going to Brittany, and reply, you'll see it kind of made her email like a link, but what it did is it also sent her an actual email that said you've been mentioned in this document. And so this is a nice feature. If you want to make sure that people know that you've made a comment, you can mention them within the comment box by just typing plus and then their email address, and that marks it for them to come and check it. One thing to note with that is if your students don't have email access, they obviously won't get that email, but that is a feature that you can use with your fellow staff members at the very least. Couple other tools that I think you'll find really useful before we kind of close out here. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of my document here. In the bottom right corner, you'll see I have this little kind of square comment box looking thing that says Explore. If I click on the Explore option here, what the Explore option does is it allows me to search documents in the web for different things. So here I could search, for example, dogs again. So this is nice because if I'm doing research with students, they can actually open up this Explore button within their Google Doc and they can search for their topic. So if we're researching dogs, I could quickly pull up some websites and I can click on these to open them. It opens a new tab in my browser, opens up the page, and I can review the website. I can also, if I do use information from that site as a student, one of the nice things is if I scroll over that website within the Explore window, you'll notice I can get this site as a footnote option. So wherever my cursor is within my document, right now it's here, I got this information from the web. I can actually go over into my Explore window and click on this Cite as Footnote, and it goes ahead and puts a footnote marker where my cursor was, and it adds a citation to the bottom of the page. Now, this does work in multiple citation formats, so at the top of the list of web results, if I click on this little More menu, I can switch it from MLA to APA to Chicago. Whatever you use in your district is fine. But you do have flexibility to change that citation, and the next one you add will be in that format. If I do use another website within my document and then I cite that one, it just adds it to the footnotes at the bottom. So for students, this is great for research. They no longer have to go out and find the way to do a citation or find a citation building website. I'm not saying that they shouldn't learn those skills. Those are great skills for them to have, but this is a quick and easy way for them to cite their sources and be mindful of the sources they're using within their documents. And it keeps them from going off to google.com to do a search. It just does it right within their document. Another quick thing within the Explore menu is you can see there's different tabs. So I can switch over to images quickly, and again, just like I did when I did the insert images and I did the search the web, I can pull images from here. And it also opens up my Google Drive and finds any photos related or files that are related to or include the term dog. So it uses a little bit of AI to search for those. So don't mind my kids here. But my dogs are also in the picture, so I could take any of these and add them into my document straight from within my Google Doc without having to go to my Drive separately. So it's a really nice integration that they made there. One last thing that I do like to point out, this is kind of a more advanced feature of Google Docs, but it's pertinent to kind of students working remotely. If they don't have online access, at home or wherever they're going to be working from, say they're going on vacation, they can, the last time that they're working, say on a Chromebook before they go on vacation, they can open up a document and they could go up to the File menu and they could say, I want to make this document available offline. So what that does is it takes the most recent version of the document as it stands and downloads it to your device so that you can still work on it even if you have no internet access. The next time you come back online, all of your changes will sync up to the document and then you can submit that for your teacher to review. That also works for you as a teacher. So if you ever don't have internet access, you can make your document available offline, go to your wherever you're going to be without internet access, and then when you come back online, it'll automatically sync up your changes for you. Another thing you can do with Google Docs in terms of being interoperable with different systems is under the File menu, there is a download option. So if students are, say they don't have a Chromebook and they have to bring this document home where they have no internet access but they have a computer that has Microsoft Word, they can download this Google Doc by going to File, Download, in Microsoft Word, and they could download that file and take it back to their house, work on it. When they come back to school, then they could upload that into their Google Drive. So that's another option built in. So I think that's just about all I had for Google Docs for today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn off my webcam and microphone, but I'm going to hang out in the chat for a few minutes. If anybody has any questions at all, feel free to post them there. I know Brittany's been monitoring the chat. I will also look at the chat. I'll leave that live until about 12:10, 12:15. And if you have any questions after today, feel free to reach out. I can be reached at cschaefer@moric.org. Or you can just go to our MORIC website and contact us anytime through there. So thank you so much for attending. And like I said, I'll hang out in the chat if you have any questions.